The quantum transmission arrived at exactly 14:32 Universal Time on a Tuesday that would forever change the course of human history. Admiral Rachel Stone had been reviewing supply reports in her private quarters aboard Terra Prime when the emergency klaxons shattered the peaceful afternoon silence. The orbital station's corridors filled with the sound of running boots as technicians and officers rushed to their battle stations. Inside the main communications chamber, a holographic figure materialized above the central projector. The being stood nearly 3 meters tall with scaled skin that shifted between deep purple and black. Its forearms moved with precise mechanical motions while twin rows of sharp teeth gleamed behind thin lips. Ambassador Thane of the Korthek Empire had come to deliver a message that would echo across every human settlement in the galaxy. People of Earth, Thane's voice carried no emotion as the universal translator converted his words. The Galactic Council has reached a unanimous decision regarding your species. For too long, humanity has spread across the stars like a plague. Your violent nature and primitive ways threaten the peace that has existed for 10,000 years. We offer you this single opportunity to prevent total annihilation. Stone felt her blood turn cold as she listened to the demands. All human colonies beyond the Sol system must be abandoned immediately. Every human settlement, mining operation, and research station would be transferred to Council control. Humanity would be confined to Earth, Luna, and Mars under permanent alien supervision. The alternative was complete extermination. You have 48 hours to comply with these terms, Thane continued. Any attempt to resist will result in the deployment of 12 combined fleets. Your primitive weapons cannot stand against our advanced technology. Choose wisely, humans. This is your only warning. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in absolute silence. Stone looked around at her officers, seeing her own shock reflected in their faces. Lieutenant Commander Alex Torres was the first to speak. Admiral, they can't be serious. There are over 2 billion humans living in the outer colonies. They're completely serious, Stone replied, her voice steady despite the chaos in her mind. And they expect us to just abandon everything we've built out there? Within minutes, the Emergency Council was in session. President Maria Santos appeared on the main screen from her office in Geneva, her face grave as she addressed the assembled military leadership. I've been in contact with colony administrators across human space. The aliens have sent the same message to every settlement simultaneously. They want an answer in 48 hours. Defense Minister Robert Hayes leaned forward in his chair. What kind of forces are we looking at? Our intelligence suggests the Korthek alone have over 3,000 ships in their primary fleet. The Council represents 12 different species, Intelligence Director Patricia Liu answered. Combined, they command roughly 40,000 vessels. Our entire defense fleet numbers less than 800 ships. The numbers painted a grim picture, but Stone had spent 30 years in the service and knew that raw statistics rarely told the complete story. What about our advantages? We've been studying captured alien technology for decades. Our ships may be smaller, but they're built for flexibility. The aliens have been at peace for millennia, Colonel David Park added. Their military doctrine is based on overwhelming force and intimidation. They've never faced an enemy that refuses to surrender? Santos made her decision with the authority that had kept Earth unified through 3 decades of expansion. We will not abandon our people. Every human colony will be offered evacuation assistance, but we will not surrender our worlds without a fight. Admiral Stone, prepare the fleet for deployment. Across human space, the next 48 hours transformed peaceful colonies into armed camps. On New Haven, Governor Lisa Chun coordinated the evacuation of civilian populations while militia forces prepared defensive positions. The agricultural world's vast wheat fields became makeshift landing zones for transport ships carrying women, children, and elderly colonists to safety. Meanwhile, on Titan's Rest, Mining Director James Wright converted industrial equipment into weapons of war. Massive cargo haulers were fitted with mining lasers and particle accelerators. The asteroid mining facility's position in the system's outer belt would make it the first target for any alien assault. but Wright refused to abandon. The installation without a fight, the deadline approached with agonizing slowness. Stone stood in Terra Prime's observation deck, watching the steady stream of evacuation ships arriving from the outer colonies. Each vessel carried families torn from their homes, farmers who had spent decades transforming barren worlds into gardens, and miners who had carved prosperity from lifeless rock. Admiral, her aide approached with a datapad. Long-range sensors are detecting movement at the system's edge. Multiple contacts estimated at over 200 vessels. Stone nodded grimly. The aliens had come early, confident that humanity would see reason and surrender. Instead, they would discover that humans had a different definition of reason. Signal all ships, deploy to defensive positions, and send a message to Ambassador Thane. The response went out on all frequencies, broadcast to every alien vessel and monitoring station within range. President Santos herself delivered the words. That would define humanity's stand. To the Galactic Council and all who would threaten human freedom, we reject your ultimatum. We will not abandon our people or surrender our worlds. If you want our colonies, you will have to take them by force. The alien fleet's response was immediate and devastating. Sleek vessels twice the size of human dreadnoughts began moving toward the inner system. Energy signatures that dwarfed anything in Earth's arsenal lit up sensor screens across the human fleet. The aliens had brought enough firepower to sterilize entire planets, but as the first alien ships crossed into human space, they encountered something unexpected. The mining platform at Titan's Rest, instead of evacuating, had repositioned itself directly in the invasion route. Wright's message was broadcast on open channels. Welcome to human space. We hope you enjoy your stay. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin, and both sides would learn that some wars change everything about the galaxy itself. The mining platform Titan's Rest had never been designed for war, but mining director James Wright had 30 years of experience turning impossible situations into profitable ones. His converted cargo haulers faced the approaching alien fleet. With weapons that had once carved up asteroids and now prepared to carve up something far more dangerous, Admiral Corvin of the Korthic Empire studied the tactical display with growing confusion. Intelligence reports indicated that Titan's Rest was a simple mining operation with minimal defenses. Yet his sensors showed multiple weapon signatures and what appeared to be a coordinated defensive formation. The humans had positioned there, converted ships using the asteroid belt itself as cover, forcing his fleet to approach through narrow corridors where their numerical advantage meant nothing. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the humans are hailing us. Wright's voice crackled across the communication channel with the rough accent of a career miner. Alien ships, this is Titan's Rest. You're trespassing in human space. Turn around now, or we'll be forced to defend ourselves. Corvin's mandibles clicked in what passed for Korthic laughter. Human, you face the combined might of 3 species. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our vessels. Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be quick. The response came not in words but in action. Wright's lead hauler, the Iron Duke, accelerated straight toward the alien formation. Its mining laser, designed to cut through solid rock, focused its beam on the lead Korthic destroyer. The alien ship's shields flared and held, but the sustained bombardment began to weaken the energy field. Impossible, Corvin's weapons officer reported. Their energy output is too low to penetrate our defenses. What the aliens didn't understand was that Wright had spent decades learning patience. The mining laser continued its relentless assault, on the same point gradually wearing down the shield generator. When the barrier finally collapsed, the focused beam sliced through the destroyer's hull like a hot knife through butter. The destruction of their lead ship shocked the alien formation into disarray. The Korthic had conquered 17 different species over the past millennium, but none had ever destroyed their vessels with such primitive weapons. Their tactical doctrine called for immediate retaliation with overwhelming force. 3 alien cruisers opened fire simultaneously, their plasma cannons designed to reduce entire cities to ash. The Iron Duke's armor, built to withstand asteroid impacts, began to buckle under the sustained bombardment. Wright knew his ship was doomed, but he had one final surprise for the aliens. "All hands, abandon ship," Wright ordered, "and activate the mining charges." The Iron Duke's cargo holds contained enough explosives to move small moons. Wright had filled them with every mining charge on the platform, creating a bomb that would have impressed the engineers who built Earth's first nuclear weapons. The explosion vaporized the Iron Duke and took 2 alien cruisers with it, their advanced shields useless against a point-blank nuclear detonation. The battle for Titan's Rest continued for 18 hours. Wright's remaining ships used hit-and-run tactics, striking from behind asteroids and disappearing into the belt's maze of rocky debris. The aliens, designed for open space combat, found themselves fighting a guerrilla war in an environment that favored smaller, more agile vessels. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park led the final assault from her converted survey ship, the Prospector. Her crew had replaced the geological sensors with proximity mines, turning the vessel into a flying bomb. Park's ship dove through the alien formation, scattering explosives among the enemy vessels before retreating to minimum safe distance. The mines detonated in sequence, each explosion triggering the next in a chain reaction that tore through the alien fleet. When the battle finally ended, 27 alien ships lay destroyed or crippled among the asteroids. The cost to humanity was equally devastating. Titan's Rest was gone, and 300 miners had died defending it, but the tactical implications rippled across both fleets. The aliens had expected to crush human resistance with minimal losses, instead suffering casualties that would have been unthinkable in their previous campaigns. More importantly, they had learned that humans fought differently than any species they had encountered. On the alien command ship, Corvin reviewed the battle recordings with growing unease. The humans had used their own vessels as weapons, employed industrial equipment in ways that defied logic, and fought with a desperation that bordered on insanity. Every tactical manual in the Korthik library would need to be rewritten. "Admiral," his intelligence officer reported, "we're receiving communications from the other fleets. Similar battles are occurring throughout human space. The Veldari lost 15 ships at the agricultural world of Green Valley. The Nexari are reporting heavy casualties at the research station on Europa." The reports painted a consistent picture. Human colonies were falling, but each victory cost the aliens more ships and personnel than their war planners had anticipated. The 3-week campaign was turning into a prolonged conflict that would strain resources across the entire Galactic Council. Dr. Maria Santos, working in her laboratory deep beneath Earth's surface, studied the wreckage of alien technology recovered from the battlefields. Each piece told a story of advanced engineering married to complacent thinking. The aliens had built magnificent weapons, but they had forgotten how to adapt them to unexpected circumstances. "They're predictable," she reported to the Defense Council. "Their technology is more advanced than ours, but they use it the same way every time. They approach problems with overwhelming force rather than creative solutions." Admiral Stone absorbed this intelligence as she planned humanity's next move. The outer colonies were lost, but they had bought precious time and revealed crucial weaknesses in the alien war machine. The enemy could be hurt, and they could be surprised. "How long before they reach the inner system?" she asked. 6 months. "Maybe less," her tactical officer replied. "They're consolidating their forces after the unexpectedly high casualties." Stone nodded. 6 months to prepare for the most important battle in human history. The aliens had learned that humans would fight, but they were about to discover that humans could also think. The war had begun with the galaxy's declaration, but it would end with humanity's answer. Dr. Maria Santos had always believed that humanity's greatest strength lay not in their weapons or their numbers, but in their ability to see patterns where others saw chaos. 6 months after the first battles, she stood in her laboratory surrounded by the fruits of that insight. The first generation of quantum-linked combat drones that would change the nature of warfare itself. The breakthrough had come from studying captured alien neural interfaces. The aliens used direct mental control for their ship systems, but their minds had been shaped by millennia of genetic modification. They thought in straight lines, following predetermined patterns that made them predictable. Human minds, chaotic and creative, could control multiple systems simultaneously while adapting to changing conditions. The test results are remarkable, Santos explained to General Patricia Hayes via secure connection. A single human pilot can coordinate up to 50 drones simultaneously. Their reaction times are faster than any alien AI we've encountered. Hayes studied the data with the eye of a career soldier. What about the psychological stress? Controlling that many units simultaneously could drive a pilot insane. That's where human adaptability becomes crucial, Santos replied. We're not trying to micromanage each drone. Instead, we're giving them general objectives and letting their base programming handle the details. The pilot becomes a conductor leading an orchestra rather than a musician playing every instrument. The first test of the new technology came at Europa Station, humanity's last major stronghold outside the Sol system. Commander Lisa Chen had been preparing for a siege that everyone knew would be hopeless. Her small fleet of converted civilian vessels faced an alien armada that outnumbered them 10-1. Lieutenant David Park was the first pilot selected for the Quantum Link program. His background as a fighter pilot and his ability to multitask under pressure made him ideal for the experimental system. As the alien fleet approached Europa, Park settled into the neural interface chair and felt his consciousness expand across 50 different drone units. The sensation was unlike anything he had ever experienced. Each drone became an extension of his will, a mechanical avatar that responded to his thoughts faster than his original body could move. Park could see the battlefield from 50 different angles simultaneously, process information at superhuman speeds, and coordinate attacks that would have been impossible for any single pilot. Admiral Corvin led the alien assault personally, confident that this battle would break human resistance once and for all. His fleet had been reinforced with vessels from 6 different species, creating a combined force that represented the largest military operation in galactic history. The humans at Europa Station had nowhere to run and insufficient firepower to mount an effective defense. The battle began as expected. The alien fleet approached in their traditional formation, preparing to overwhelm the human defenders with concentrated firepower. But as they closed to weapons range, something unprecedented happened. Park's drone swarm struck from every direction simultaneously. The small, agile craft moved in patterns that defied conventional military doctrine, attacking from impossible angles and employing tactics that seemed to change every few seconds. Individual drones were destroyed by alien fire, but the swarm adapted instantly, filling gaps and exploiting weaknesses faster than the enemy could respond. What are these things? Corvin demanded as his tactical display showed chaos where there should have been order. They're too small to be piloted, his weapons officer replied. But they're moving with coordination that suggests intelligent control. It's impossible for any single mind to direct so many units. What the aliens didn't understand was that Park wasn't directing the drones in the traditional sense. He was thinking alongside them, his human creativity merged with their mechanical precision. When 3 drones were destroyed attacking a Korthik cruiser, Park immediately shifted the remaining units to exploit the gap in the enemy's point defense grid. The breakthrough came when Park realized that the alien ships were designed to fight enemies that behaved logically. Their defensive systems anticipated attacks from predictable angles and responded with predetermined countermeasures. But humans didn't fight logically. They fought creatively, emotionally, and with a willingness to sacrifice individual units for strategic advantage. Park's drones began kamikaze attacks against the alien formation, but not in the way the aliens expected. Instead of targeting the largest ships, they struck at communication arrays, sensor clusters, and engine components. Each attack was precisely calculated to cause maximum disruption with minimal loss of drones. The alien fleet's coordination began to break down as their command and control systems failed. Ships that had fought as a unified force suddenly found themselves isolated and vulnerable. Park's remaining drones exploited these weaknesses ruthlessly, using their superior speed and maneuverability to strike at critical systems before disappearing into the void. Commander Chun watched the battle unfold with growing amazement. Her small fleet had not only held their ground, but was actually winning against impossible odds. The alien formation was in full retreat, leaving behind dozens of crippled vessels and thousands of casualties. "Lieutenant Park," she called over the communication channel. "How are you holding up?" Park's voice was strained but steady. "Still here, Commander. The quantum link is incredible. I can feel every drone like it's part of my own body. It's exhausting, but it's also the most alive I've ever felt." The victory at Europa Station sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. For the first time in 10,000 years, a primitive species had defeated a combined alien fleet using superior tactics and technology. The implications were staggering. On board the retreating Korthic flagship, Admiral Corvin filed his report. With growing dread, the humans had developed weapons that challenged every assumption about galactic warfare. Their drone swarms moved with intelligence and creativity that surpassed any known AI system. More troubling, they had shown tactical flexibility that suggested they could adapt to any conventional strategy. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "we're detecting similar engagements throughout human space." The Valdari fleet was decimated. At the mining colony of New Prospector, the Nexari are reporting total losses at the research station on Kepler Prime. The pattern was clear. Humanity had not only survived the initial alien assault, but had learned from it. Their new weapons and tactics were being deployed across their entire defense network, turning each battle into a lesson in human adaptability. Back on Earth, Admiral Stone reviewed the battle reports with a mixture of pride and determination. The tide had turned, but the war was far from over. The aliens still possessed superior numbers and technology, but they had lost something far more valuable: their confidence in inevitable victory. "Dr. Santos," Stone called her chief scientist, "how quickly can we produce more quantum link systems?" "We're already manufacturing them at maximum capacity," Santos replied. "Every major shipyard in the Sol system is working around the clock. Give us another month, and we'll have enough systems to equip the entire fleet." Stone nodded. The next phase of the war would be different. Humanity would take the offensive, carrying the fight to the enemy's home systems. The galaxy had declared war on Earth, but they were about to discover that humans had their own ideas about how such conflicts should end. The largest fleet in galactic history assembled at the edge of the Sol system like a storm front of metal and energy. Admiral Corvin stood on the bridge of the Korthic flagship Dominion, watching as vessels from 12 different species formed into attack formations. 10,000 ships had come to end humanity's defiance once and for all. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "all fleets are reporting ready. The Valdari contingent has taken position on our port flank. The Nexari forces are moving to secure the outer system approaches." Corvin nodded grimly. The combined fleet represented more firepower than had ever been assembled in one location. Every species in the Galactic Council had contributed their most advanced vessels, their most experienced crews, and their most devastating weapons. The humans had proven surprisingly resourceful, but even they could not stand against such overwhelming force. Admiral Rachel Stone watched the approaching armada from the bridge of her flagship, the Defiant. The human fleet that opposed them numbered less than 800 vessels, many of them converted civilian ships with improvised weapons. By every measure of conventional warfare, the coming battle should have been a massacre. But Stone had learned that humans excelled at rewriting the rules of conventional warfare. Dr. Santos had spent the past month implementing the most audacious plan in military history. They would not meet the alien fleet in open battle. Instead, they would turn the Sol system itself into a weapon. "Dr. Santos," Stone called to her science officer. "Status on the solar array?" "All satellites are in position," Santos replied. "We have gravitational anchors at every major gravitational well from Mercury to Jupiter. The solar collection network is fully operational. The plan was brilliant in its simplicity and terrifying in its implications. Humanity would use the sun's massive gravitational field as a slingshot, accelerating their smaller ships to velocities that would make them nearly impossible to intercept. More importantly, they would trigger controlled solar flares that would disrupt alien sensor networks and communications. Lieutenant David Park, now promoted to commander after his success at Europa Station, settled into his quantum-linked chair. His consciousness expanded to encompass not 50 drones but 500, each one a precisely positioned instrument in humanity's greatest gambit. "Commander Park," Stone addressed him directly, "you understand your role in this operation?" "Yes, Admiral," Park replied, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. "My drones will coordinate the solar collection network. When the flares begin, we'll direct the energy toward the alien fleet's sensor arrays." The battle began not with weapons fire, but with a dance of physics that had been orchestrated over months of careful preparation. Human ships launched themselves toward the sun at precise angles, using gravitational acceleration to build velocity while the alien fleet struggled to track targets. Moving at impossible speeds, Corvin watched his tactical display with growing confusion. The human ships were not forming defensive positions or attempting to escape. Instead, they were diving toward the system star in what appeared to be a mass suicide mission. "Sir," his science officer reported, "the human ships are using solar gravity to accelerate beyond our weapons tracking capability. Their trajectories suggest they're planning to slingshot around the sun." "Impossible," Corvin replied. "No organic crew could survive the acceleration forces involved." What the aliens didn't understand was that humanity had always been willing to push the boundaries of survival. The human pilots were experiencing crushing G-forces that would have killed most alien species, but they endured through a combination of advanced life support systems and sheer determination. The first solar flare erupted from the sun's surface like a tongue of fire reaching toward the alien fleet. The electromagnetic pulse disrupted sensors throughout the Korthek formation, blinding their targeting systems and severing communications between individual ships. In the confusion that followed, Park's drone swarm struck with precision that bordered on supernatural. Each drone had been programmed with specific targets based on detailed analysis of alien ship designs. They struck at communication arrays, sensor clusters, and engine systems with surgical precision. The aliens found themselves fighting blind against enemies that seemed to anticipate their every move. Commander Michael O'Brien led the assault. On the alien flagship, his ship, the Valkyrie, accelerating toward the massive Korthek vessel at velocities that made conventional space combat obsolete. His crew had trained for this moment for months, preparing for a boarding action that would have been impossible. Under normal circumstances, the Valkyrie's impact with the Dominion's hull was precisely calculated. The human ship's reinforced prow punched through the alien vessel's armor, creating a breach that O'Brien's boarding party could exploit. As the ship system stabilized, 40 human Marines launched themselves into the alien vessel's corridors. The battle inside the Dominion was unlike anything in recorded military history. The corridors had been designed for beings nearly 3 meters tall, but the humans used their smaller size to their advantage. They moved through ventilation systems, maintenance shafts, and areas that the aliens had never considered defensible. O'Brien's team fought their way toward the bridge through corridors filled with Korthek warriors. The aliens were individually stronger and better armed, but they had never faced enemies that fought with such creativity and determination. Human tactics that seemed suicidal proved devastatingly effective against opponents who had never learned to expect the unexpected. The climactic battle occurred in the Dominion's command center, where O'Brien faced Admiral Corvin in personal combat. The Korthek commander was twice the human size and armed with plasma weapons that could cut through steel, but O'Brien had something that no alien could match: the desperate creativity of a species fighting for survival. As the two commanders fought, the battle throughout the Sol system reached its crescendo. Human ships emerged from their solar slingshot maneuvers with velocities that allowed them to strike at the heart of the alien formation. The carefully coordinated drone swarms exploited every weakness in the enemy's defenses. While solar flares continued to disrupt alien communications and sensors, the breakthrough came when Dr. Santos activated the final phase of her plan. The quantum-linked network that controlled the drone swarms was expanded to include every human ship in the system. For the first time in history, an entire fleet fought as a single coordinated entity, sharing information and adapting to changing conditions. Faster than any traditional command structure could manage, the psychological impact on the alien fleet was devastating. Ships that had fought as independent units suddenly found themselves facing an enemy that anticipated their every move. The human fleet moved like a school of fish or a flock of birds, each individual unit contributing to a pattern that was greater than the sum of its parts. But the true turning point came when Dr. Santos implemented her most controversial innovation. The quantum-linked network was open to include alien crew members who had been captured during previous battles. For the first time, the aliens could experience human thoughts and emotions directly. The effect was immediate and profound. Alien crews across the fleet suddenly understood that the humans they had come to destroy were not monsters or primitives, but beings driven by the same desires for survival and prosperity that motivated every sentient species. The propaganda that had justified the war crumbled in the face of direct emotional contact. All ships, Admiral Corvin broadcast on emergency frequencies, cease fire immediately. We are withdrawing from the system. The order came too late to prevent the complete transformation of the battle. Human ships had penetrated deep into the alien formation, and the coordinated drone swarms had crippled dozens of enemy vessels. But more importantly, the psychological foundation of the war had been shattered as the alien fleet began its retreat. Leaving behind thousands of casualties and dozens of crippled ships, both sides realized that everything about the galaxy had changed. The war that had begun with a declaration of human extermination had become something else entirely, the first step toward a future that neither species could have imagined. 5 years had passed since the last shot was fired in the war that transformed the galaxy, and Ambassador Helen Cross could barely recognize the universe around her. The conference chamber on the space station Unity hosted delegates from 47 different species, their voices blending into a harmony that would have been impossible before humanity changed everything. Cross stood before the assembled representatives, her words carrying the weight of history. Today marks the 5th anniversary of the Treaty of Seoul, which ended the deadliest conflict in galactic history and began the most productive period of expansion and discovery our galaxy has ever known. The delegates listened with the respect that came from shared struggle and mutual understanding. Among them sat former Admiral Corvin, now serving as the military advisor to the Terran Alliance. His scaled features showed the scars of battles fought and lessons learned, but his eyes held something that had been absent for millennia: hope for the future. The war taught us that our greatest strength lies not in our weapons or our numbers, but in our diversity, Cross continued. Humanity brought chaos to a galaxy that had grown comfortable with order. The result was not destruction, but evolution. Dr. Maria Santos, now director of the Alliance Research Division, reviewed the daily reports from across the galaxy with wonder that never seemed to fade. The integration of human creativity with alien knowledge had produced advances that neither species could have achieved alone. Ships that had once required months to cross the galaxy now made the journey in weeks. Worlds that had been barren for billions of years were being transformed into gardens through the marriage of human biological sciences and alien atmospheric engineering. The breakthrough in quantum-fold technology came from an unexpected source. Santos explained to her research team. A Chitani mathematician working with human physicists realized that our chaotic thought patterns could solve equations that had puzzled their species for centuries. The result is a drive system that makes every previous technology obsolete. The Chitani had become humanity's closest allies in the post-war galaxy. Their hive mind organization complemented human individual creativity in ways that produced results neither species could achieve alone. Joint research stations throughout the galaxy buzzed with activity as insectoid logic merged with human intuition to unlock the secrets of the universe on the world of New Harmony, formerly the Korthic military. Stronghold of Domination Prime. Children of 6 different species played together in streets that had once echoed with the sounds of war. The planetary governor, a human woman named Lisa Park, watched the scene with satisfaction that came from seeing the impossible become routine. 5 years ago, this world was a fortress designed to dominate the galaxy, Park reflected to her. Aid, a young Korthic named Krell. Today, it's a center of learning where former enemies work together to build something better. Krell nodded, his mandibles clicking in the gesture that had become a sign of agreement throughout the Alliance. My grandfather fought in the war. He tells me that humans taught us how to dream again. The transformation extended beyond politics and technology to touch the very soul of galactic civilization. The arthropod Chitani had rediscovered individual creativity through contact with human artists. The energy-based Luminari had learned to appreciate physical beauty through human poetry and music. Each species brought their own gifts to the growing alliance while learning from the gifts of others. Commander David Park, now captain of the Starship Horizon, prepared for humanity's most ambitious mission yet. His vessel carried a mixed crew of humans and aliens on a journey that would take them beyond the galaxy's rim to explore the vast emptiness between star systems. Captain, his Valdari science officer reported, long-range sensors are detecting artificial structures in the void. They appear to be ancient, possibly predating any known civilization. Park smiled as he contemplated the discovery. The universe was full of wonders that no single species could have found alone. The war had taught humanity that their greatest strength lay not in their weapons but in their ability to see possibilities where others saw only problems. Prepare a full sensor sweep, Park ordered, and signal the Alliance. We may have found something that will change our understanding of the galaxy itself. Back on Earth, Admiral Rachel Stone walked through the gardens of the Memorial Park, where monuments honored the fallen from both sides of the war. The names of human heroes were carved in stone alongside those of alien warriors who had died, fighting for what they believed was right. The memorial reminded everyone that the path to peace had been built on the sacrifices of those who had the courage to fight for their beliefs. Former Admiral Corvin joined Stone at the memorial wall, his presence a testament to the transformation that had touched every aspect of galactic civilization. I often wonder what would have happened if we had never declared war on humanity, he said quietly. Stone considered the question that had haunted both species since the war's end. We would have continued on our separate paths, never knowing what we could accomplish together. The war was terrible, but it was also necessary. Sometimes the greatest discoveries come from the greatest challenges. The memorial garden was filled with plants from hundreds of worlds, each one a symbol of the diversity that had become the Alliance's greatest strength. Human roses grew beside Chitani crystal flowers, while Valdari moss carpeted the ground beneath. Towering Korthic shade trees. The garden was a living metaphor for the galaxy they had built together. As the sun set over the memorial, children from a dozen different species played among the monuments, their laughter echoing across the gardens. They had never known a galaxy divided by fear and suspicion. For them, the idea that different species could not work together was as foreign as the idea that the sun might not rise tomorrow. The war that had begun with a declaration of human extermination had become the foundation for a new age of exploration and discovery. The galaxy had declared war on Earth, but in the end, it was the galaxy itself that had changed. The chaos that humanity brought to the stars had not destroyed the established order but had transformed it into something infinitely more complex, more beautiful and more alive. As the stars emerged in the darkening sky, the message that had ended the war continued to echo across the galaxy. We are not your enemies. We are your future. The future had arrived, and it was more wonderful than anyone had dared to imagine.